How you doing today? This is a 12 or 12 podcast, a podcast about real life, recovery, growth, development, and redemption. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do me a favor, tap the subscribe button and share for more. Also, we are sponsored by First Step Recovery. If you do not know yet, it's a wonderful place. If you need help with substance abuse disorder or severe mental illness, do not wait, do not hesitate to contact them today. You see the numbers up top, it's going across the screens. Make sure to contact them. Not too late. Make that change today. We have a special guest today, Patrick. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Amazing.
It's an amazing day, right?
Yeah.
Hey, like I always like to say, every time you're above ground, walking and taking a step forward, it's a blessing.
Another day sober is amazing.
Definitely is. Where you from, bro?
I'm from Ellington, Kentucky.
Ellington.
Ellington?
Owington?
Yes.
What's up there in Owington?
Little small town.
The small
Nothing.
town? Well, it gotta be something up there now.
Cows, horses. Yeah. It's just
No,
a small
right.
town, you know. We don't even have sidewalks, you know,
What?
unless you're in the city. Yeah.
Wow.
I live on the outskirts, so we have no sidewalks. You know, everything you got to drive to.
Oh, man.
It's not
So
convenient.
how was it growing up there like that?
Well, I grew up in Covington, so I grew up in the city. I grew up in Covington, right by Cincinnati, and then we moved out to Owington in 2000.
Oh.
My parents moved us out there, and they wanted to move us out there so that way. They said they wanted to keep us away from the city to get us away from drugs. But in the country, it seemed like there was more drugs out there because there was nothing to do. Nothing that you couldn't go to, like bowling alley right down the road, or you couldn't go to skate park. You know, I mean, there wasn't nothing was accessible for us to do as kids. So, you know, you found yourself in more trouble, and then it seemed like drugs was something easier that we fell to, you know.
Yeah, you know what? I noticed that too, man, because like I'm from Orlando, so being in that area, you know, it's citywide, and then you got Kissimmee where I was raised at, and then you have an area outside of like St. Cloud and Arcousie area and things like that. And it's more country, it's more wooded area, things like that. And one thing about it, they get tore up from the floor up.
Yeah.
Like they be getting lit. Do not think they do not get lit out there, you know, and it's
that's
a
what we
difference.
did.
Yeah, it does. You know, a person to think that, okay, yeah, it's just more stuff like that going on in the city, but it's actually maybe because it's just less to do out there or something. Maybe me personally, I think that might be the reason. But
Like,
man, they get out there and it's like, hey, you know what? Next thing you know, I'm out there in the cow pastures. We hanging out, man. We getting drunk. They got kegs, smoking weed.
Out there
shrooms,
passed out
whatever.
next to the cow patties and stuff.
Yeah, craziness. And I'm like, man, you know what? And that's the first time I was like, you know what, man? I be getting wasted out here, man.
Yeah. That was something we did like every weekend, like in school when I was about 16. You know, we just smoked weed, and you know, we had field parties, keg parties every weekend. It seemed like. I mean, that was just like. Shoot, it come like natural. It was something that we had to do every weekend. It seemed like, you know what I mean? It was all we had to do, really. You know, that's how we all got together, and that's what we did. You know, like, so that's why I said, you know, when we moved out the country, that my parents thought they was getting us away from, you know, drugs because we were leaving the city, but it actually, there's less resources when you're out there in the country, you know, versus how it is here in Louisville, you know.
When were you first introduced to a substance though out there?
I was 16.
When you were 16?
Yeah. I started smoking weed.
Was it a friend that introduced you to, or a family?
Yeah, somebody from school. Just
Somebody
friend.
from school?
Yeah. Yeah. And,
So how did that affect you overall? Like did that push you to do more different things, or?
Yeah, because it kind of, you know, so my dad worked out of town all the time. You know, he was an electrician, so he always worked out of town. And when I got introduced to, like, you know, smoking weed, and then started hanging out with just my friends that smoked weed with me, you know what I mean, like the ones that were our little group, it was kind of like they made you feel a part of, you know what I mean, and it made me feel like I was somebody that you wanted to hang out with, you know. So, and then, you know, I always had a way of making money ever since I was a little kid. My dad made me do work. My grandpa, he had his own lawn mowing business, so I had to mow grass, you know. So I've been doing some type of work since I was 9, 10 years old. So as far as like making money and always having money, I always did. And so I was able to buy some of the weed, you know, and get the weed. So that was part of, like, they make you feel like you're a part of, you know what I mean? Like, heck yeah, you know, he's got money, he can buy us a bag, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how it started with me, really. It started with weed, and then just basically weed and drinking, really.
So you felt like it affected you in a negative type way?
It definitely didn't help. It wasn't positive, yes.
Yeah, definitely. So as you progressed and got a little older, you went through high school and things like that. Did you ever get in trouble with the law or anything?
Yeah, I was getting in trouble throughout school.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was when the girls had their tournament and they would go to Richmond, Kentucky. You know, I got pulled to the principal's office because they said they knew we were smoking weed in the motel that everybody was staying at, and it really stimulated stuff like that. Got pulled over because the car smelled like marijuana, and that was I was probably about 17 at the time.
So your parents, they're wanting to get you away from the city and wanted to get you out there in the country and find out there's a lot more using. How did that affect them when they seen that you were getting involved in these things and that you were getting in trouble? And
I don't really know as far as like how it affected them because I never did take time to ask them. You know, so I never did ask them how it affected them. I just know that I took it, you know, like from my understanding, I took it like there was something wrong with me. You know what I mean? Like I was, you know, why am I like this? Because I've got a brother that's younger than I am, and you know, he don't do drugs, he don't drink, like he's complete opposite. Like he don't do none of that kind of stuff at all. And I just, you know, my parents don't drink and drug, you know, so I just thought that it was just me, something was wrong with me.
yeah,
You know?
so you wasn't the type that was like trying to put a blame on, you know what, this the reason, or you didn't go through this, that. You had a pretty good, decent household.
I had
at
a
home.
great household.
Great, you know, and that's the same thing that I look at, like, you know what, I had a great household, you know. Every family has their problems, but at the end of the day, I realized, you know what, a lot of the decisions that I made that got me in trouble, certain things that I did, I realized it was me. Now, circumstances, things might happen that you don't got control over, but I understand my choices overall was my choices. You know, my parents didn't want to see me get in trouble, still got in trouble. They didn't want to see me do drugs, still did drugs, still smoke weed, drunk, all that bull crap. You know what I'm saying?
And we had a great household. So like we had my mom and dad, we even had like, we did game nights, you know,
awesome.
We ate together at the table together, you know, like my mom always cooked, my mom worked, my dad worked. My dad just traveled, he was an electrician, so he traveled out of town a lot. And like my mom and dad, if they did have arguments or disagreements, we didn't hear about none of them. They would go behind closed doors, you know what I mean? So like you know, our perspective, but my perspective, you know, was thinking that my parents never had no issues and life is easy. You know what I mean? Like you don't come across no problems whatsoever. But, you know, like as far as like childhood goes, my parents, you know, they did a really good job. Like, I feel like they spoiled us a little too much, really, you know, because they bought us whatever we wanted. They made sure we had anything that we wanted, you know, me and my brother. So as far as like childhood, I had an amazing childhood.
That's a blessing right there. That's a blessing right there.
Yes.
Now, during that path when you were growing up and you continued to get older, when did the alcohol and drug use become more of a problem? Even though you were young, you were doing things at a young age, but when did it really become a problem that
So
people started noticing?
It slowly progressed. You know, I got to about, I'm trying to think, I got probably to 18. You know, I started getting into pain pills. And then I was wanting to, I'd signed up for the Army and then went to the Army, you know, and barely passed the drug test. You know, I barely passed it. But I did that just so that way I could make my dad proud of me, you know what I mean? Because I know, you know, he's got brothers and stuff that was in and brothers that retired and stuff. So I did it just to make him happy and join it. And I was even drinking full blown when I was in the Army, like on our weekends when we got our passes. Like, you know, that's just what we did, you know. And it never really, life didn't become unmanageable then, you know. So, you know, we would, during the week, we'd go back on base and do our training and everything. And then the weekends was just, you know, we party all weekend. And it wasn't really until she and I come back and then my relationship with my ex, because at this time I done had we had our first kid in 2004. That's my oldest, my 22-year-old. And so after the kids, you know, basically I was in their life. Like I was in their life physically, but I wasn't mentally. I wasn't there to help their mom take care of nothing. As soon as she got home off work, I would take off and go rip and run and do drugs all day. You know what I mean? Like smoking weed, just hanging out with, you know, my friends instead of being there taking care of my kids like I was supposed to. And then that's when everybody started noticing and saying, you know what I mean, like, you need to do something, you got a problem, you know, like, thank God for my ex, Nikki. She took very good care of our 3 kids. You know, she did everything for them. You know, even all the times that I couldn't. You know, it was everybody else that raised my kids for me because of my addiction. You know, and then that's when I started realizing that I really did have a problem. So, and it didn't get no better. It slowly progressed. You know.
Damn. You know what? See, that's a serious thing. Like you really definitely know it's a problem when you stop taking care of the kids like you're supposed to. You know, that natural instinct inside of us to take care of the children, you know? Yeah. And how did it make you feel when you were at that point? Because obviously it became unmanageable. You know, when you get to that point of, listen, you know that you can't manage it. You know what you should be doing, but these drugs or whatever substances you're taking is literally taking control over your body. It's like I said it before, I know it's a spiritual battle that you go through, a form of possession. These things, these substances and these drugs is evil when they take control and put a chain around your neck to the point that you can't even think right. And the
bondage.
And it affects your thinking. Like it takes over your brain, so you're not even thinking clearly. You're not even the same person you are. And that's why when a person says, you know what, you're completely different now, man. You know, you was different when you was on this, or you was different before you started doing this. Yeah. It's because the truth is you are different. Your brain has been affected.
Just like, you know, even when they say, you know, like even all the warnings that I had from everybody, like you're gonna lose your kids, or, you know, my ex is gonna leave me and take the kids, you know, like even when you got all them warnings and active addiction, none of them warnings mattered. You know what I mean? Like when you're in active addiction like that, all you can think about and do is to get that next high, because, you know, the sense of ease and comfort that comes with it. But you get that next high because then you can be father of the year for a day, you know what I mean? But then tomorrow I'm gonna be sick and I'm gonna be a crappy day. I get mad because my kids wanna wake me up and want me to go outside and do something with them, or want me just to show them attention, because that's really all they want you to do is show up and just be there for them. And I've never been there for none of my kids, really, not until, you know, a few years ago. But I've never been able to be there and do anything for none of my kids. Like my oldest, I got 22-year-old, I've got a 19-year-old, and I got a 16-year-old, and I don't know their favorite colors. I don't know hardly anything about them. You know, like I'm trying to work on that and get this stuff back together, but it's stuff like that you miss when you don't pay attention to it. And in active addiction, you know, a lot of people don't understand that we have an illness. You know, that that there is a chemical imbalance with us. That there is something that, you know, this is a recovery process that we have to do the rest of our life. You know, like, and my family, my kids have seen me, you know, in recovery, and they have seen me have, you know, 3 years clean. And then, like I said, you know, like even all them warnings that everybody tells us, you know, like you're doing this, you're gonna lose that. Like that stuff don't matter when you're in that far active addiction.
Yeah. So how did it make you feel when you were going through that time and you wanted to do this, but your body and your mind had you doing something else, that internal battle? How were you feeling at that time?
I hated myself, like, because I thought that I was just broken. I thought I was gonna be like this the rest of my life. Like I didn't know anything about AA. I didn't know that there is a solution, that there is a way out. You know, like I didn't have a relationship with God at the time. You know, I didn't hit my knees and pray or ask Him for help. You know, I just, because, you know, it's hard for a man to ask another man for help, for one. You know, but at the time I just never thought, hey, I'm gonna get in recovery. I'm gonna find a way to get past this. That was like the hardest thing about it, really. Just not knowing what was wrong with you, not knowing the resources to use to try to seek help. You know, like that was the hardest part of it.
So when is the time that you sat back and thought, you know what, I'm about to actually make that change. I'm gonna take this step forward to get help?
To be honest, which this program, it demands rigorous honesty, but to be honest, it wasn't until I was court ordered. You know, that's how I got introduced to AA and stuff. It wasn't until I wanted to manipulate the situation and was like, well, I don't want to be in jail, so I'm going to fake it to make it. I'm going to tell them, you know what I mean, go ahead, I'll go to rehab. You know what I mean, I'd be free. I'll be able to do what I want for a little bit, and then once I complete rehab, I'll go right back doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, I had reservations already. I was just doing it for the simple fact that I didn't have to be locked up, be in jail. It wasn't because I was trying to do it for myself or that I wanted to be clean, because I didn't want to be clean. I wasn't ready for it. And actually, I didn't cause enough damage yet, really.
You know something that says in the Bible that, our plans on God's plans, our ways on God's ways.
Yeah.
And, like you said, you got a tattoo on your arm, and they'll call if you're chosen. And you know what, man? God calls you, you answer that call, and he chose you on the right path. And you know what? A lot of times, we don't like to take that path.
Yes.
It's not easy going through a lot of these things that we go through. It's not easy going through the fire, being molded. And it takes, that fire to mold that metal. To mold that piece.
Yes.
And I know you worked on cars. We'll get into that too. But you got to get that heat to a certain level of heat with the metal to be able to bend it, to form it. And you know what? That's what God does to each and every one of us.
Yes.
And I truly believe that if you don't, it's cool. But I just say, hey, try God. Try God if you haven't. And he'll mold you. You go through that fire. It might not feel good. It might burn. It might be hot.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable. But at the same time, you're getting molded. And I think, the course is a blessing, man, to put people through there and have programs just like First Step Recovery and another program like that, like you've been in Wayside Mission, to be able to have that opportunity instead of sitting you behind a cell and you're not really getting that help that you need.
Yeah, and you're actually stacking stuff up. So like child support, that stuff builds up while you're locked up. And then when you get out and, you lose your license because you ain't paying. So then your self-esteem and your pride and everything's down because you can't drive nowhere. You're like, I can't get a job. I'm a piece of poop. You beat yourself down to where the next thing you know, you're right back in the active addiction again. Even if you did have a little dry time being locked up, you get out, and then that's the first thing you run to because you get that sense of ease and comfort after the first time. Because I didn't drink because I liked the way it tasted. I drank because I liked the way it made me feel. And that's why it's so easy to jump back to that because, positive affirmations, in active addiction, you give yourself negative, the whole time. I'm a piece of poop, I'm never gonna get this, I'm a failure, you just constantly tell yourself that all the time when you're in active addiction, because for one, you're not doing anything positive.
You're not surrounded by nothing positive, so where are you gonna draw that positive from?
You can't, unless you call upon God.
Yep, that's it, and he'll bring that darkness to light, man, and clean you on out. You went through the hard times in your life. You grew up, you started, at a young age, you were using, you were abusing, you were getting in trouble with the law, in and out of jail. You had great parents, great life.
Yes.
This is just a little recap we're doing. And then you get to the point where you were court-ordered, and that's what changed it. You went in with that mindset, and so many people going with that mindset of, I'm about to trick the system. But the thing about it is, nah. You're in the right place. There was no tricks involved.
He brought me right back.
Yeah, he brought you right back the way you needed to be. You need to sit down. You need to get your mind right. And then you got a choice from that point. Are you going to continue on that path or not? So you continue on the path. You're doing good. You're doing right. What happened next in your life that was that stepping up stone?
That was about 20, we were up a few years, but about 2013 is when 2013 is when I first came up here from jail when they sent me. The judge said, you got 4 hours to get to Men's Healing Place. Sent me up here to detox at the Men's Healing Place. And that place, I learned a lot. I learned the AA book at the Men's Healing Place. But, I ended up getting in trouble. I got kicked out of the program. And my probation officer said, you got a couple of days to get another program. So I was, my criminal way of thinking, I was like, I'm going to call around, find places I can go quick because I ain't trying to go back to jail. So I went to Wayside. And all together, I was up from the Men's Healing Place and Wayside, which I'm alumni, I completed Wayside. But all together, I was up here for 15 months trying to complete treatment. And, the whole time, I started, Wayside's actually, where I really focused on God. And because, Wayside's also, it's a recovery program. It's also a homeless shelter. They do stuff for the veterans. But it's actually living life on life's conditions. So when you're in a recovery program and you're also surrounded by homeless people and you see how much worse things really can be, it makes you appreciate the small things a little more. And Wayside actually, I had one of the instructors, Miss Lorraine, I love that woman to death, but she would always tell me Mr. Booth, You're trying to manipulate the program to get what you want. You know, you're over here isolating yourself, and I never did look at that stuff like, why she's always on me all the time. But as I started listening to her more, and then I started writing words, you know, I had to write 90,000 words, you know, like stuff like that, start back to scratch, you know, like that stuff really makes you take a look at it and see like what you're doing, like how you're harming people, you know, like how your ulterior motives are, you know, how I'm trying to manipulate the whole program. I'm trying to manipulate everything to get what I want, you know what I mean, what makes Patrick happy, not anybody else. And so I got out of Wayside 2015, and I went home. I wasn't working no program, wasn't doing AA or anything, so I might have had maybe a year dry, basically, because I wasn't working no recovery program, so I had a year dry. And I ended up thinking, you know, maybe I can do drugs just on the weekend so I can work during the week so I wouldn't lose my job. And, you know, that worked the first weekend, you know, and then I was back full speed, you know, because like I said, it gets worse, never better. So then at this time I done experimented and found out about heroin. So I done went straight from pain pills to heroin. And that was the devil. Like that was the absolute worst drug I've ever done. But that one that really had my life. Like it had me exactly. It had a grasp on everything I loved. You know, I harmed everybody around me. But that was the worst one.
Wow. So Wayside Mission seems like it was a great experience for you, and got you closer to God. You learned about God. You got closer to God.
I got baptized there by one of the guys that I worked for. He was my boss basically because I was their mechanic for a whole year.
Yeah, so that's another thing.
I made $1.50 an hour. You know, working for them, but $60 a week is what they pay me. You know.
Did they teach you how to mechanic, or was that something you already
something
knew?
That I already knew.
Okay, so you already knew.
When I was in the Army, I was in the Army from 2005, 2009, but I was a diesel mechanic in the Army. And
okay.
My grandpa taught me small engine mechanics when I was younger. Like, he taught me, you know, the basics, like hold this wire while I pull start and see if it's working. You know, I was holding the coil wire. So that when he pulled it, and it shocked me because I said, what is it supposed to do, Pebble? He said, you'll find out, just hold it. And as soon as it shocked me, I was like, oh, gosh dang. He said, yep, it's good. He said, yep, it's good. It ain't that.
So the military definitely trained you up and you learned a lot of things with the military.
The military taught me a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
It taught me integrity. You know what I mean? Like, it did help me with all that until I got out of there and went right back around the same people.
One thing that's important is the people you surround yourself by.
Yeah.
I noticed that, man, because you can have the best intentions, but if you surround yourself by the wrong people, it's going to rub off.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You know, you might be out there and you might think you could just be the one to change this person. A person has to make a decision for themselves. You know,
they got to.
You know, I feel like
they got to want it for themselves.
They got to want it, bro. You know, I mean, verse in the Bible talks about, you know, you got to plant the seed and God does the increase. Yeah. So what we can do is plant that seed of positivity, plant that good seed, like, oh, here's the way to help. Like, it's simple. If I'm going down the road and a person is homeless and they got a sign out, I could give them $1 or I could give them some knowledge. So one of the things I like to do instead is always keep some brochures. Like, see this First Step brochure, or if you know a treatment center in your area, your city or whatever, that might be able to help somebody. You know there are good places and you got bad places, but if you know a place is a good place, and even if you haven't thought about it, just find a good place that you know is a good place that can help. Grab you a pamphlet, keep a pamphlet on you, and when they come and they ask for money, give them a pamphlet. Give them something that's better than money. Because they're gonna get the money, they might not know exactly where to go with the money. They might not know what to do with it. They might go and use, you know what I'm saying? But there's plenty of places out there that got food that they can eat. So a lot of times I noticed that there's places that can get food from. There's food banks all over the cities where you're at. Guaranteed. Guaranteed there's food banks in each city that they could get food from, they could get drink from. They're not gonna starve to death from if they don't want to, but 9 times out of 10 they're gonna get the money, they're gonna go buy some cigarettes, the drugs, is that. Listen, get them some help. Keep that on you, and when they come and ask you for something, pass it to them. Here you go. Here you go. I believe that, and let God do the increase after that. But if you go out there and you're in the midst of them, you're in the midst around these same old friends, listen, you know what, even good thing is, that's why I love being connected with a lot of different areas. Sometimes you might have to go to a program outside of your city. Sometimes you might have to go to a program in the next city where you don't know anybody.
Because sometimes you got to change in people, places, and things. You know what I mean? You got to have the whole atmosphere change. You know, like when I'm here in Louisville, Kentucky, it's always super easy for me to stay clean and do exactly what I'm supposed to do. Because for one, I'm in a complete different atmosphere. You know, like, and I'm surrounded by guys. It's, you know, like being here at First Step. I'm in a sober living home, so I'm around other guys that are sober.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier when you surround yourself, like when you're surrounding yourself around people like that. It makes it so much easier. It's just like if you wake up thinking about the negative in the day, you're gonna have a negative outlook on the whole rest of your day. But if you wake up and you think about the positive in it, and then you do look and count the blessings that you do have, you know, and look for the positive in it, you're gonna have a great day. You know?
You are.
That's all. Like that's why meditation and stuff helps so much. You know, what I
It
mean?
definitely does. And meditating on your day after you go through the day, and then you realize, okay, you know what happened throughout the day.
Yeah.
You know,
Take a look at your day.
take a look at it, examine. You know what, this might have went
See
bad.
where you went wrong.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
How could I handle that situation different? You know, like
Exactly.
did I talk too loud to him, or was I aggressive in the way I talked? You know, like
Can I handle it a little bit better? You know, or could I have accomplished a little bit more? Or, you know, you just sit back and every day analyze your day, examine, and then make some good choices after that.
Did I harm that person? You know, that's all part of recovery. You know what I mean? Like, you know, making all those before you go to bed. You know, to think about, like, did I do anything wrong today? Like, you know, you have issues, you know, of course, in recovery, because everybody's going through different things, and everybody's recovery looks different, you know.
Exactly.
But we all have the same mindset as far as what we want in recovery. You know, we all want to be sober and be home for our families. But a lot of time, people's recovery are slower than others, you know.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
you know, we're all dealing with different things. So that's like the main thing, you know. Sometimes, you know, I'm still working on my anger. I get mad easy, you know, and I lash out sometimes, but then I immediately will pray and ask God, like, how do I fix this? You know, what do I do? And, you know, I always go, like, I want whoever I get into it with, you know what I mean? I want a handshake. I give them a hug because it lasts longer, you know what I mean? And I just tell them, you know, where I went wrong, you know, what can I do to fix it? But that's a big part of my recovery today.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great thing. You got to make sure your mental is good. And if you know you got a problem, that's the key. That's the number one thing, to realize you got a problem. If it's with anger, if it was stress, if it was anxiety, depression, whatever it might be, you have to realize that you have a problem, and then you have to take those steps, those exercises, learn a little bit more about that, and then you'll be able to learn a little bit more about yourself and how you can deal with those problems to make yourself a little bit better, more effective in society. That's
Recovery is all about what you can do for somebody else, and, you know, even in doing God's will, it's all about what you can do for somebody else and not expect anything in return. You know, like that's really what God wants us to do, that, and for us to share His glory, what He can do for you, you know, what He's done for somebody like me, you know.
You're exactly right.
It's endless, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, and if He did it for you, He could do it for everybody else too.
Yeah, He
you know
can
what
do
I'm
it for
saying?
anybody.
And that's why I say, hey man, put your faith in God. You went through a lot, and now you're on the other side now. What are some things that you've been able to accomplish since you've been on the sober path and then walking that right path? How has things been in your life?
A lot of the guys will hear me, so I just wake up like I'm high on life today. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited. I wake up so pumped that even the house manager has to tell me, like, Patrick, like we get up at 6 a.m. You know, so the house manager will tell me, like, you're gonna have to tone it down to 50, bro. Like you're too amped this morning. You know, and they're like, I said, I'll do 75. I can't do 50. You know, and I can't help it. I said, I'm high on life. I got a lot to be grateful for. You know, like even it's good to even be. It's grateful. It's good to be grateful about the bad things, because they make you appreciate the good times even better. You know, because it's not always going to be easy. If it was, everybody could do it. You know, so since I've been here at First Step, which I've been here since February 14th, 2026. That's my sobriety date. I did on my
Congratulations.
Thank you. I did wake up this morning, made a deep and personal commitment to my God that I would stay clean and sober for the day. You know, I would stay faithful to my wife, body and mind, that I would remain open-minded and teachable, and that I would just do whatever I could do to be the best version of myself today. And you know, that's what I tell myself every morning. You know, and I tell myself I got this. And since I've been here, I'm an ordained minister in the state of Kentucky.
Oh,
I got my
congratulations,
certificate and
man.
stuff,
Did you ever think that at this point in time, like when you first went into the matters, did you ever think at this point in time that you would ever be an ordained minister or doing the work of God?
No, I never thought I'd do anything like that. Never knew anybody. I never knew an addict like me, a recovering addict, could do anything like that. Next week, I start my classes for adult peer support specialist, and then my community support associate. And I start the classes for that next week because they're 30-hour classes. And then this morning, this is all just being here within a couple weeks at First Step. Like this place is amazing. Like they really do allow you to get back on your feet. Like they allow you to, like, I hit the ground running, my first week here I got a job back at Wayside, so see, God brought me right back. Like he done spun me all the way back around and put me right back in Louisville where I first started, because obviously, like I told you, I was just manipulating the system. I was just doing it because court ordered, probation officer. But this time, like, I'm 40 years old. I don't have no other choices. Like, I've got to get this. My family needs me, So he brought me right back because I've been trying to figure out what my calling was, what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And now that I can see that, I know for a fact that for the rest of my life, I'll be doing steps 10, 11, and 12 on a daily. That's the only way I can stay in my recovery.
And what is steps 10, 11, and 12 if you don't know what they are, if a person doesn't know who's looking at this?
It's all about helping back and giving to others, Okay. And so, like, it's just a quick breakdown, but that's what it's all about. That is what life is all about. So when you're actually when you're sponsoring and you get a sponsee, once your sponsor allows you to do that, you have to have a little bit of sobriety to be able to do that. But once you're able to do that, when you're got a sponsee and you're going back through the steps with them and you're giving them the work, telling them to read, Bill's story, how it works, there is a solution. When you're doing that with them, then you're going right back through them steps with them. So you're starting right back at step 1 with them. And that's how you complete the cycle and keep going back through the steps 1 through 12. But 10, 11, and 12 is the ones that is about reaching back and helping another sick and suffering. But when you do that, that's putting, giving you a solid foundation on your recovery, because it's something, like I said, we'll be doing the rest of our life. It's something that we have to work on. So, that's why I reached out, wanted to do peer support specialist, and I want to do community support associate, because I want to try to get a job at like a church or, even a recovery program like here or somewhere else, so that way I'm able to help people just like me, and then show them that, show them that what God can do and that anything's possible. Like, I started classes this morning for, it's Life Ministries, but I started classes this morning for a life coach and a relationship coach for couples and stuff. Like, I just started classes this morning, and that's all been stuff that I've been able to do since I've been here at First Step Recovery. Like, this place really, like, they help you get back on your feet. Like, they actually care and they give you the opportunity. Like, all the resources, they even connect, staff here will connect you. Like, they'll help you with resources for food. So like they help you get, we buy our own food, so they help you get your food stamp card. But this place really cares about getting you back up on your feet. They tell you not to rush the process, So it gives you time to focus on your recovery. So you're not doing too much and putting too much on your plate. And they've actually told me that a couple times, like, don't trust the process, slow down, And I pray on everything, before I make any kind of actions or before I move forward, because like I said, like I was telling you earlier, if it's something God didn't want me to do, he would make sure he intervened. And it would be something like, if I tried to pay for one of these classes, like my card would get declined, or something would intervene. Like they'd say, no, you got class tomorrow, you can't do that. But that's why, that's how I know when it's God's will over my own will, because God's will, he provides, he makes everything work and happen like it's supposed to.
Amen. See, the thing about it is, you got to take that first step. That's the good thing about First Step Recovery. They definitely will help you out. And they let you work in the program and let you know they're not here to just keep you locked down. They're here to help you get right. You know what I'm saying? To come up in life and be at the place you want to be. You want to see everyone, stop using, get their families right, get their finances right, get their education right, get their mental right, get their spiritual right, so they get all that right, and then they can go out and be a productive part of society. And a lot of people just need that push. They did it before, but they just need that remembrance, a little bit of discipline, and just to build that hope back that they already lost. So do you have any plans for the future before we wrap it up?
I'm really, I was just telling my wife this morning that I'm focusing on my legacy that I'm gonna leave. You know, so one day when whenever it's my time, when God does call me, I want to. That's why I am trying to do all these certificates and trying to get all these classes done, so that way I can contribute to life and I can be able to help people that deal with mental issues, or people with alcohol and substance abuse, but I'll be able to help do that stuff, and my legacy I'll leave behind. It won't be people telling my kids when I'm gone, like, oh yeah, that guy stole this from me. Yeah, he was a junkie, or he did this. I'm gonna keep moving forward and doing God's will. That way, when my kids do hear stories from people, be like, that guy was a great guy. That guy helped me do this. He cared about people. I want my kids to be able to have their head held high when people talk about me when I'm gone. Something that they're happy about. Not like, dang, that was my dad. Yeah, my dad did do that. He was on drugs. Like that's my main focus. And my 22-year-old, she's wanting to get married soon, so I really pushed myself to get that ordained minister, so that way, once God puts her back in my life, because, I said things and did things to push some people out of my life, and when God does put them back in my life, I hope to be able to be the one to marry her and her husband, like, just stuff like that is what really drives me and pushes me, just because I know I can be better than I have been, or the ways that I've chose.
And hey, that's important. That's great to hear. And that's one thing that you all need to just understand. And the people who's looking at this, it's never too late to change. It's never too late.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace. Give your loved ones grace. Because even if they're down right now, just know they can make that change today. And they can start building back that relationship with you. So don't hold it against them, especially if they're out there and they've been on things, Just give them a chance. Don't hold it against them, And let's just heal each other, Be there. God's gonna help you heal if you just have that grace and that mercy, like.
You gotta love them to life, not love them to death.
Yeah, you have to, man. You gotta love them to life, man. When I look at it as from a Christian standpoint, Christ gave his life for us. We should do the same for each other.
He forgave us.
No greater. He forgave us. It's no greater love than to lay down your life for a friend, and that takes sacrifice. Or if you truly love someone, that takes sacrifice, and with sacrifice comes love, and it's action behind that. So, what type of action are you willing to take to show somebody that you love them? Forgiveness is key. You have to forgive in your heart, otherwise you're going to be weighed down. So, brother, is there anything else you would like to tell the people before we go?
Shoot, First Step Recovery. If you need any kind of help, this place is a great place to reach out to. The information that he's got on there, it's a great place. They really do care about you here. It's helped me out just in a few weeks. Like, I've done a lot of stuff that, a lot of people, it takes months to do. Like. This place they just do care about you,
Amen, amen. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of you watching this show. If you have not yet subscribed, once more, please tap the subscribe button and share for more. We love you all, and hey, put God first, and trust me, let him guide your steps, one step at a time, one day at a time. Don't put too much on your plate. God ain't gonna give you too much you can't handle. Stay focused, stay disciplined. Have a blessed day.